Okay, this is a political report. It will be a bit eclectic, so there's no particular theme. All I will do in terms of at least British politics is begin with the major news item of the week, and that is David Cameron, the Prime Minister's long-awaited and doubtlessly much edited, re-edited, edited again, rehearsed, re-rehearsed speech on immigration. Obviously this was going to be an important speech from two angles. One from the angle of what's the Tory party going to do about UKIP, but also it's important in relationship to Britain's continued membership of the EU, and for that matter, does Cameron in that sense really want to sleepwalk British capitalism into a situation of where Britain is either forced or forces itself to leave the EU? Anyone who imagines that wouldn't have any consequences is living in cloud cuckoo land. I mean, even from the point of view of the city, where you know, finance capital at its most, or capital as its most fluid, you can imagine going out of London and finding, a safer refuge under those sort of circumstances. Anyway, he delivered the speech, and far from it being a lion that comes forth snarling and all the rest of it, really what he delivered was a mouse. You had the usual platitudes about immigration being a jolly good thing, but what is notable, of course, about the speech is no challenge to the free movement of labour. Previously to the speech, we heard stories, rumours, leaks, call it whatever you will, about ceilings, about limits, about blocks, all sorts of ideas. None of that was included in the speech. There has been some stories in the press, I noticed in I think either the Daily or the Sunday Telegraph, that David Cameron had his arm twisted by Angela Merkel. Apparently that's got the right wing of the Tory party very aerated, very annoyed. It's been denied. On the other hand, if you look at the German press, Der Spiegel's run a story that basically said it was Merkel what did it. It was Merkel that held Britain back, because if Cameron had gone ahead with some sort of demand for ending free labour, Merkel basically let out the message, well, in that case, go. I mean, that would have been the message. It wouldn't have been, we're going to negotiate with you. It will be the 2-year transition to Britain being reduced to the level of a Switzerland or a Norway. And all you need to do on that question, by the way, is listen to, people like the Confederation of British Industry. That's the sort of capitalist wing of the capitalist class, as opposed to the banking wing. And I think they had a conference recently, and they did a survey. Anyway, 9 out of 10 of these capitalists, which will obviously vary in size, came out and said Britain leaving Europe would be madness. I mean, it's quite interesting that big business really hasn't had its voice, how should I put it, decisively in this debate. It's playing the same sort of role as it played in Scotland. It almost has to be forced to come out and express an opinion. It's quite strange. Anyway, what we have in terms of the actual content of Cameron's speech is an attempt to not so much out UKIP, but you could say out Labour, because just prior to Cameron's speech, what we had is the Labour Party coming out with its answer to UKIP, its attempt to get, to muscle in to UKIP territory, and you had the announcement that if Labour was elected, before you could claim housing benefit, child support, or whatever, there will be a 2-year, wait. And this is meant to be some radical move. And of course, Cameron had the advantage of waiting for that. And instead of 2 years, he came out with 4 years. So he's obviously, he can play it, we are tougher than you. Of course, all of this is predicated on the idea that migrants are the problem. Something has to be done about migration. That is something that unites not only the mainstream parties, in particular obviously Labour and the Tories, but also obviously UKIP. That's why picking out UKIP as the SWP do as being beyond the pale, I think is a fundamental mistake. The idea that UKIP is qualitatively different when it comes to migration, I think is wrong. Where it is qualitatively different to the mainstream is precisely what you could actually do about migration. If you viewed migration as a problem, quite frankly, you have to come out of Europe. You have to, right? The fact of the matter is that there's a treaty that signs up to free movement of labour. The idea of renegotiating that and getting the agreement of 28 countries is just not on. So UKIP is telling the truth. If David Cameron is sincere in his pledge, remember, was it a couple of years ago when he came out with this, we're going to reduce migration down to the tens of thousands? It's foolish, idiotic piece of posturing, right? What would you have to do? You'd have to do what Nigel Farage and UKIP say. Come out of Europe, put up border controls and take the consequences. Okay, so he's not going to do that. So what we have is figures I noted down up to the year June, so that's June 2013 to June 2014. The official figures aren't tens of thousands of migrants coming into Britain. The official figures are 260,000 migrants coming into Britain. What was Ed Miliband's response to David Cameron's speech? Sad, but what you expect. You can't believe anything David Cameron says on immigration because look at his tens of thousands. Well, you'd have to say the same, wouldn't you, about Ed Miliband? You ain't going to do anything about it if you want to remain in Europe. And the fact of the matter is that if you actually look at most capitalists, they are in favour of the free movement of labour. Why? Because they want the free movement of labour just like any other commodity. It certainly enables them, not just at the unskilled level, but crucially at the unskilled level, to undermine wages. That is, in my view, a fact. If you double the supply of labour, if it's unskilled labour, put them on a building site, talk to any building worker, talk to anybody at that end of the market, go out tonight talking to people working in a hotel. These are run by migrants, often migrants working beneath the official minimum wage. That's it. The capitalists are in favour of that. What they're not in favour of is paying taxes, right, in order to pay the NHS for these people, to pay them unemployment benefit. That's certainly true, but that's the universal cry of the capitalists, isn't it? What should our response be? Well, we basically would go back to the position of the Second International. You could go back to the First International if you wanted. The First International famously organised Irish workers who were brought over to Britain to scab. It tried to limit the competition between workers on an international scale. And that's the position of the Second International. I think it was actually the London Congress of the Second International agreed a resolution basically along the lines of, we in the International do not line up against our brothers and sisters who happen to be living abroad. As far as we're concerned, human beings inhabit planet Earth, and we should be allowed to live anywhere on planet Earth. I mean, why on earth should any working class, genuine working class politician object? At the same time, we of course recognise that the capitalists will try to pit one worker against another worker. And from the earliest of times, workers have combined together. That's what trade unions used to be called in Britain, combinations, and they've passed anti-combination acts. But the purpose of us combining together was to limit competition. We cannot abolish competition between workers under capitalism, but we can certainly limit it severely. So to the degree that the working class is organised in Britain, to the degree that the working class is organised on a global scale, that becomes practical politics. Anything else, I think, really is just a fool for the politics of national chauvinism. As Peter constantly points out, nobody now in the modern world would object from someone in Britain moving from Glasgow to London, or from Liverpool to London, or from London to Liverpool. No one would say unemployment is caused in London by people moving in from Glasgow. It's a peculiar mindset of the modern world, therefore, that we live in this nationally divided world with a nationally divided consciousness. What we need to be bringing to the working class is that, the motto, the worker has no country. Well, we do, but we don't want to be divided on that basis. We also have the possibility, of course, that David Cameron's... Come and sit here. We also have the possibility that some of David Cameron's proposals anyway will be challenged in the courts. It's problematic to the degree that he can get away with treating people who are citizens of the EU differently from one country to the other. So anyway, just lastly on that, the whole thing to me anyway is based on a common but nevertheless false idea, and that is that people come from Poland or Romania or Lithuania or Estonia because there's housing benefit in Britain. Vast mass, and that's what the statistics show, comes simply on the basis of trying to get a job. It's as simple as that, and therefore his measures are actually aimed at the weakest, and it's not going to do the job that he proposes it's going to do. But what it does, it feeds into this chauvinist idea, which quite clearly does affect some of the left. All you need to do is look at the Communist Party of Britain, Socialist Party in England and Wales, and their election fronts, and they talk about non-racist immigration controls, i.e. immigration controls. No to EU, let's stop workers coming in from the rest of the EU. This is not the politics of socialism, it's the politics of national socialism. Not Nazism, but nationalist socialism, i.e. anti-socialism. Just quickly moving on to the slightly more absurd end of British political news this week. We had Andrew Mitchell, former government whip and former Minister of Overseas Development. He spent, or will have to spend, I think, I've read different figures so I'm not quite sure, the largest figure I've seen is £3 million on legal fees. Lower ones I've seen are 2 million. Whatever you say, it's a hell of a lot of money, and it shows you that fighting battles of this sort in the British courts is a hellishly expensive thing to do. Basically, this arises from an incident, was it a year ago, 2 years ago? I don't know, a long time ago anyway, when he's riding out of Downing Street having visited the Prime Minister. Policeman refuses to open the gate and basically says walk through that bit, and apparently, according to the policeman, he lets off a load of invective along the lines, don't you know who I effing am, don't you know I'm a whatever. I don't know why I'm holding back on my fuckings, but there you are.